He's no attorney general. Suck it up.
I love Massey. He's going to be the AG. Suck it up. Joining me now, one of the great people we have in Congress. Of course, you know him on this show, Congressman Chip Roy of Texas. Okay, Chip, there's a lot of people screaming, a lot of people happy about the Gaetz pick. No one's talking about Pete Hegseth or Tulsi Gabbard. I guess we can get to those in a moment. But Gaetz is most definitely out of the box. He is wild. That's really what I like about him. Frankly, I think he's an obnoxious human being, and that's what I love the most. I want him to go blow everything up in the DOJ. What say you?
Well, I've worked closely with Matt, as everybody knows. We were working together, obviously, through the whole debate last year and the year before about the speaker and the rules on the floor. And I've agreed with him at times, disagreed with him at times. We were working to change the rules. Last year, when he vacated Kevin, I actually disagreed because we were trying to work through some of the arrangements, but that's fine. I'm generally for, I'm going to use this metaphorically, violence, political violence. I'm generally for that kind of, disturbing the entire culture here in Washington that Matt's good at. And that's what I was saying yesterday, is you need somebody who's willing to completely blow up the Department of Justice, all the way down to the ground and then start back up. And same with all the other agencies, right? And whether you're Tulsi or whether you're Pete over at the Pentagon, we need people who are disruptors, are unafraid. And frankly, I don't really care about all of the drama. People today they get so wrapped around the axle, about, some specific thing or allegation or whatever. At the end of the day, right now, the country needs massive, quick, disruptive leadership, or the country will not survive. And that's it, plain and simply. And Massey's correct. Suck it up.
What do you handy? I know you won't have a say in this because you're in the House, not the Senate, but where do you handicap his odds? We've already got the standard senators, Collins, Murkowski getting flimsy on us. Everyone saw that coming, but you think he actually is going to get through?
Well, look, I think President Trump's going to have him sitting in the spot. I think he's going to have him as the Attorney General one way or the other. I think the question what the Senate does, we'll see. Look, here's what I'm going to say. The president, generally speaking, Democrat or Republican, deserves deference, certainly from its own party, on the nominee. Doesn't mean you should just, rubber stamp it. I certainly wouldn't vote for their commie nominees that they put forward, and we should oppose, all of them. The Republicans should be supporting the Republican president's nominee, absent something really extraordinary. And that doesn't exist here. And so at the end of the day, I think he will likely get confirmed, absent something, I don't know about. But Matt's somebody who you can count on to actually totally gut and reform the Department of Justice. So why would we not allow the president his selection of the person he wants to do that? That's my general question. And look, I'm one that calls balls and strikes. You know that. I call balls and strikes with President Trump, with other people, with my colleagues. I don't give a crap. I just call it like I see it. And I want somebody to just rip that thing apart, root and branch, because it has been massively, massively abusive towards the American people. Take the FACE Act. There are elderly people in jail for simply carrying out their religious beliefs and protesting and exercising their First Amendment rights to protest abortion. Think about that. And it's unbelievable. We have somebody who survived an Eastern European gulag who's now facing being put in prison because of their beliefs. That's this Department of Justice. It's been weaponized against the people, and it needs to be gutted and taken all the way down to the studs and rebuilt. And I think Matt can do that.
Amen. Let's move on to a couple other detailed matters that matter. We have Elise Stefanik gone. We have Matt Gaetz gone. Mike Walls gone. A slim majority in the House is getting slimmer by the second. Is this a point of concern, or is it not something you're stressed about?
Well, look, I think we're somewhere around 221 or 222 before you lose the people you just mentioned. I think we're going to have some window in the early part of the year where we're down to 18 or 19. So we're going to have a 4 or 5 seat gap, which means you can only lose a couple of people to flip to the other side. Look, I think we're all going to be trying to work to get to consensus to deliver on President Trump's agenda. Yesterday, there was a bit of a kerfuffle because some of our colleagues were putting forward amendments to the rules to target us, to punish us if we dare break on a rule vote. Well, look, my election certificate is for 750,000 Texans. I report to them, to God, and the Constitution, and no one else, period. We need to come together, work together to be able to advance an agenda. And I think we can do that if we start with the policy and start with what President Trump's trying to do. But, we're going to have to continue to have the conversation here to do that. The reason Mike Johnson was selected yesterday was because a general agreement was struck to have the moderates, if you will, stand down and not offer those amendments to punish or target any of us if we dare break and vote against a rule. We want to retain our power to be able to shape the agenda. We think we'll shape that agenda towards what President Trump wants to do. But we're going to have to come down and figure out how to deliver with a narrow majority. And I can tell you, it doesn't start with the swamp tactics. It starts with the people and those who want to deliver the MAGA agenda.
Okay, let's talk about this Mike Johnson thing then. There are a lot of people, myself included, who have not exactly been enamored with what he's done since he's taken over as Speaker. But I understand it is a different world with a GOP president, GOP Senate, allegedly. Are we expecting a better version of Mike Johnson from now on?
Well, here's what I would say. I think we're working through the process right now, yesterday and today, to try to get us united. I think Mike's got a lot more work to do between now and January 3rd to get us there. He's got to demonstrate that he's going to have the right people sitting around the table to make the right decisions about how we execute. I'm not going to get everything I want. That's fine. I understand that. But I don't want the swamp to just do what it always does and stand in the way of what President Trump wants to do. Let me be clear, Jesse. There are already members of this body, this Republican conference, talking about amnesty. There are already members of this body talking about that we can't have E-Verify in the HR 2 bill. There are already members that had signed a letter saying they won't repeal the Inflation Reduction Act. There are already members who are talking about we can't get too harsh on spending cuts. I could keep going down the list. And I'm telling you, we're going to have a moment where President Trump, along with those of us who want to fight for the MAGA President Trump agenda, are going to have to come together to demand that we execute. I hope the Speaker will have those of us in the room necessary to work this out early so we don't have to have those fights on the floor. But if we have to have those fights on the floor, we damn well will.
You know who would be nice to have in Congress right now? A gentleman by the name of Bob Good. It would be nice to have Bob Good there, but Bob Good was primaried out of his seat, sadly. Andy Harris, who I do like, is the new head of the Freedom Caucus. What's the status of the Freedom Caucus, Chip? Is it getting stronger, weaker? Is it stagnant?
Oh, the Freedom Caucus is strong. The Freedom Caucus has got a great group of people. We're the same group of people that we've had. A couple of changes here and there. We've got some new people come in, a couple who've left. I agree with you. I wish Bob Good was staying. Andy Harris is a good friend. And we're working to look. It's a complex environment right now. We're trying to give deference to the president and his building out his agenda. We're trying to get organized. But the Freedom Caucus's role has always been to stand up and guarantee that we're going to be able to execute our rights as members and that the leadership can't roll over us. That's why the Freedom Caucus was founded. It was I don't want to say democratize the House. That's a kind of a overused term. But it was to guarantee that my election certificate carries as much weight as the election certificate of the Speaker of the House. Because I can promise you, my 750,000 Texans that I represent, particularly the Republicans who elected me, but all of them, they expect me to represent them. I don't represent my colleague. I have to work with my colleagues to deliver for my constituent. So the Freedom Caucus exists for that reason. On that score, I don't think we've ever been stronger, but it will be a bit of a dance. I got to be honest with you about working with, figuring out how we're going to deliver on the president's agenda when we need to know what that agenda is and build it out. Two-way street. We have a duty, separation of powers as the House, to get out there in front and start moving our agenda. We just need to make sure it's married along with what the president wants to do so we can achieve it.
Chip, finally, Pete Hegseth. Look, I'm doing backflips over this. It's outside of the box. It breaks up that good old boy network. I suspect I know how you feel about it, but how do you feel about the whole Pete Hegseth for SecDef?
I first met Pete 20 years ago when he had just come back and he had, I think, gotten out of active duty. and he was starting a nonprofit. This was before he got into the media and over in Fox. And he's a good guy. Again, I've known him for a long time. Will Kane, who's a good friend of his. I know Will. He's a Texan. Pete has, I think, the right attitude, and that's what's important. The worst thing we could have done was put forward one of the usual old guard that want to come in and do whatever all the defense contractors say so we can perpetuate endless war. But he's a veteran himself. He obviously fought. He knows it, just like you, Jesse. That's good. He has a real feel for what it meant to wear the uniform. But he's not going to be a sycophant for the defense industrial complex. He's going to go represent his boss, the president of the United States. And he's going to go, I think, stand up for the men and women in uniform and not all of this woke crap that the brass that have been pushing down. Those guys need to all be wiped out. They need to be just taken out. And I think Pete can do that. Look, I think Tulsi's going to be able to do that over in national security. I think we're going to have some good reforms in other areas. Again, having Tom Homan over at the White House as border czar. I'm excited about a lot of the appointments. There have been one or two I'm not really so sure about, but most of them have been pretty good appointments, and we'll see how this all unfolds. But yeah, I think Pete will do a good job.
Congressman, as always, thank you, sir. Appreciate you. I would thank you for coming to my YouTube channel, but I know how brilliant it is, and I know you love it here. So subscribe and watch. We're going to start really ramping things up and putting some funny stuff, some interesting stuff out there, some collaborations. Either way, my YouTube channel is officially the place to be. So stick around.